Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am back once again, unfortunately without a mic today. Most of this ride is probably going to be silent, but I will be doing some kind of audio narration, I believe. I have no mic. Right now it is on the charger, and I wanted to get out and ride today because I haven't ridden in like almost 3 weeks. So yeah, the reason why I didn't really film the last few weeks, I just wasn't into riding. And that's the thing is, like, I think most people out there that ride bikes, no matter if it's a dual sport class, no matter if it's, you know, a street bike, a cruiser, touring bike, whatever the case may be, you all know and have felt the need not to ride. And I don't know sometimes if that's just a premonition to keep you safe and off the road, because as we know, motorcycle crashes happen a lot more frequently than vehicular accidents, such as with SUVs or cars. So I don't know, sometimes I feel like that's like a spiritual thing, or there's some kind of, you know, force that's kind of telling you inside, like, oh yeah, just take a few weeks off from riding. So that's going to happen from time to time, and I know not a lot of you really care about that. You just want to see the vlogging and the riding, and totally understand. I love doing it. I love presenting whatever content I can for you guys. And I'm always asking, I know I don't have a huge following and I don't intend on having that, but I always ask that any people that are subscribed to my channel, if you enjoy the content, obviously give a like and drop a comment, but let me know in the comments what kind of topics you want me to discuss as we moto vlog and as we explore throughout some of the areas that we go. One thing I forgot to mention in the beginning of this video is also the fact that my local area is now shut down when it comes to trails and fire roads and stuff like that. There's two areas that in southern Orange County you can basically ride, which is basically Maple Springs Trail that leads up to Santiago Peak, and then you also have Holy Gym, which is basically just a long fire road that leads into some small little trails that also connect up to, I believe it's called the North Main Divide, which kind of gets you out towards Santiago Peak again, but it also splits off, and there's several different trails that you can kind of go on. And it's spread all throughout Santiago Peak and into Riverside County. For any of you SoCal natives, you'll know where that is. If you don't, it's just a different county that's probably about 40 to 50 minutes away from where I'm at in southern Orange County. And it burned pretty much through Santiago and went right over the hill, and it basically started approaching a city called Lake Elsinore. And unfortunately it burned some structures down, housing, and other types of, main kind of areas that had brush and bush and stuff like that. So unfortunately, the National Forest Service, I believe it's called Cleveland National Forest Service, they're going to be closing these trails down for possibly between 1 year the least, 2 years the most, the max. So I'd like to eventually go out to Joshua Tree, to be honest, because I hear that that's kind of a great area to explore and kind of take a gander at. The thing is, I kind of want to go with someone. I don't really want to go out there alone. I also don't have a truck, and my 250L can only go so far, right? It can't really do highway riding because it maxes out at like 80 miles an hour. So that's kind of, again, in a nutshell, part of the reason why I didn't ride the last few weeks, and then also kind of an update on my future riding, at least temporarily for the next year or so until these trails start opening up again. Again, I may look into going some other places, but we'll see when the time comes. Even though I'm not going to be able to ride these trails, I still love the dual sport class. And today I actually went to a motorcycle place. Shout out to them. It's Honda Kawasaki in the city of Orange. I believe it's called Orange County Honda Kawasaki, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to them. Great guys in there. They're not super pushy. They're pretty friendly and helpful when they can. can be. And I frequently go in there because I just like to go sit on bikes. Even bikes that are not necessarily in the same motorcycle class as me, so in this case dual sports. I just like to go sit, see if I feel comfortable, or if I would want to consider maybe changing motorcycle classes, maybe get a street bike, maybe get a supermoto, maybe get a cruiser, maybe get a touring bike, who knows, right? But I will say it only further confirmed that I really only like dual sports, because I did sit on a couple of the Honda Rebels. I sat on the 300, the 500. I also sat on a Kawasaki 650 something. And I don't know what it was exactly. They also had, I think, the Kawasaki Shadow Phantom. Never sat on it, was going to, but it just looked so big and heavy that I just was like, I don't really want to do this. I mainly just went in and sat on one of the old bikes I used to have, the 300L. I sat on that bike again just to get a feel for it. It's not much different than the 250L that I have now. And then I also sat on my potential future purchase at a later date, once I have some money coming in, the Kawasaki KLX 300. Now, let me just kind of explain a little bit in detail, why I would be potentially purchasing this bike in the future. I also looked at the KLX 230S. I don't like the graphics and the fairings and some of the plastics that they have on the 2023 model. So I've been seeing online that they have the 2024 model coming out that looks very similar to the KLX 300. And a few dealers in SoCal do have them, but none near me. And I don't know what the holdup is, because they've been producing the KLX 230s, I think, since 2019, 2020. It's a fairly new, model that's been in production with Kawasaki. But from what I hear is obviously it's way less powerful. The torque on it is way less, and I think it has only 17 or 18 horsepower. However, the suspension is pretty excellent from what I hear. Not as probably excellent as the KLX 300, but definitely better than the Honda 300L. A lot of riders and then a lot of these guys on YouTube will talk about, like, if you're a beginner and you're going into the dual sport class, it doesn't really matter what bike that you purchase as far as suspension, because you're not really going to feel it. Now, I think that that's partly true, but to be honest with you, you will feel it, like, probably within 30 days. As long as you're going out every ride or every weekend, however many days that you ride, and you're getting 1, 2, maybe even 5, 6, 7 days in on your bike, depending if you commute on it, and then on the weekends you go out for off-road riding, you will feel it. I can tell you that it hurts sometimes to ride on the CRF 300L and or the 250L that I have now. Although I believe my 250L, the owner had cranked the preload up in the back, so because it does seem like when I sat on it, when I got home from the original dealer, my toes were a little bit farther up than they were on the 300L at the dealership. So I believe possibly my the previous guy I bought the bike off of might have actually adjusted the preload. And as you know, the front inverted forks are non-adjustable. So you would have to get certain kits and certain things. And to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not that mechanically inclined to switch all that out. Now, I know for most out there, people will do it. They know how to do it. They'll tell you it's easy. To be honest, especially suspension, I just don't want to really adjust or deal with. I can do some of the basic maintenance stuff on a bike, but I don't want to be adjusting suspension and getting into that realm, because if I mess something up, it can be a bad day for me and anybody else that's not that mechanically inclined to adjust suspension. I know where all of it is, but I just don't personally work on it. It's just not my thing. I'd rather go to like a dealer, spend the money, and have them adjust it. That's just me. Better to play it safe, spend a little bit more money than do it yourself and then mess it up and have it cause a safety concern. So getting back to it, it hurts on some of these bikes, some of these ruts that you go over. And to be honest with you, even if you're on a fire road, people don't really talk about this, and this is for all new dual sport riders as well. Even if you're on a fire road and, you know, it's kind of just a straight path, you may or may not have it, but if you do, you're going to have people who previously were on that road. So I'm talking 4x4s, trucks, any off-road vehicle that can basically go off-road. You're going to have them leaving behind divots and ruts in the road. So even if you're on a fire road and it's flat and it's not like rocky terrain or anything super crazy, you can still bottom out your shocks on that type of bike just based on some of the ruts that you may not even see. You may be going 30 or 40 miles an hour and all of a sudden, boom, there goes one, there goes another. Then you start having all these others that are popping up because people, when they bring their vehicles in to off-road, they're leaving behind all these traces, all these tracks. So that is just something I wanted to share with you, and especially the new guys out there, because that's something that maybe some of the new or existing, you know, moto vloggers or dual sport riders that have YouTube channels don't really tell you. And it's just something to be aware of, that even on fire roads, depending on who's on that road, they can leave behind nasty ruts in the road, and you may not see them, and bam, you bottom out your shocks. That's it. So this is part of the reason why, you know, it's taken me a little bit of time, but the DR650, the CRF 300L, and now my 250L, I can tell you just those three bikes that were the most recent bikes I've had. The DR650 slightly a little bit better suspension, but honestly not that much. I can tell you that they're all super soft and squishy. And if you are seriously going to be doing off-road, I'm not saying that you can't get the 300L, the 250, the DR, or any of these bikes that have soft suspension, maybe even the XT250, the Yamaha. I'm not saying you can't get them. I'm just saying just be prepared, and you may be limited on some of the stuff you can do, especially if you want to go faster down some of these fire roads, gravel roads, any of these roads, you know, 2-track, single track, whatever the case may be. You just may be limited because, again, it's one of those things where suspension comes into play. It took me a couple times, and I do this a lot because if I'm going to buy a new bike, bikes are expensive, the markups are ridiculous, you know, all this BS, right? So I'm going to probably sit on the same bike 2 or 3 times before, you know, I'm either going to make a decision or if I feel comfortable on the bike or what have you. Basically what I did is I sat on the KLX, then I went over to the 300L, sat on that bike. Then I sat on a few other bikes that were street bikes, like I mentioned before. Then I went back to the 300L again, sat on that, was squishing down the suspension a little bit. Then I went back to the Kawasaki as my last bike I sat on. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I actually felt it. I felt the difference in suspension with just sitting on it at the dealership. And it sold me right away. I got off the bike, and I also was checking out other portions of the bike. So looking at some of the plastics. I was also looking at some of the blinker lights, both rear and front. And the reason why I tell you that is because if you're buying a dual sport bike, you should actually try to see just the basic stuff where if stuff were to break and you need to DIY, do it yourself, you need to see, is this type of bike, is it welded a certain way that's possibly going to cause me issues to the frame? The blinker lights, if they break off, are they, you know, screwed in a certain way where it's going to make it harder for me to replace? Or is it going to be pretty easy to replace? I can tell you on the 300L, the way that they have those lights routed is garbage. Basically, where the lights are routed, if you break the plastic that's in the routing of the lights, you have to replace the entire plastic underneath. You can't just replace, you know, the light or the plastic part that broke off. So just keep that in mind. And the Cowie was similar, but I think it was put in a little bit differently, a little bit better. I would say that the Yamaha XT250, the DR650, and I'm not sure about the DRC400, so you'd have to do your own research on that. But I can tell you the XT250 and the DR650, if you drop those bikes, the way that the blinker lights are is excellent. They're like, I think they're routed into the frame versus plastic. So if something breaks off, you just reroute it to the thing that's in the frame, the little holes that line up to it. So it's not bad. This is just stuff that I personally look out for. You don't necessarily have to do. Another thing is, it's a benefit compared to the 300L. The KLX 300 stock OEM comes with an automatic skid plate. Now, I'm not saying the skid plate is excellent. No, I am not saying that. I would advise to probably get a heavier duty skid plate if you plan on doing a lot of more aggressive riding. But if you're just going to do fire roads and, your basic, trails and stuff like that aren't maybe single or single track or, 2-track, then you'll probably be fine. And even if you did do single or 2-track, you could probably get away with the skid plate they have as long as you don't go super aggressive with it. But I will tell you that just that alone, even for the price, I'm like, better suspension out of the box, automatic skid plate. Why not? It just makes more sense. All in all, I'm really going to be looking into the new year, looking at getting the KLX 300 at some point. If any of you own the bike, please comment down below if you like it or don't like it. Let me know too if you have a 300L. Give me the reason why you chose that over the KLX 300, because that model is comparative to that. And the last bit of information I wanted to go over is the updated version of the DRZ 400. So I did read the article, and I kind of watched a video on it as well, from another moto vlogger out there. Yeah, his YouTube channel, check him out. It's called Chronicles of Solid. Suzuki is now, after 25 years, giving us an updated version of the Suzuki DRZ 400. We're all assuming that it's a DRZ 400. Chances are, though, it could be a 300, similar to the KLX and the CRF 300L. That could be the Kawasaki and Honda's competitor now. If Suzuki does it right, man, they could blow both of those two brands out of the water. And to be honest, that's another part of the reason why I want to wait till the new year to decide if I'm gonna go with the KLX, because I might actually look at the DRZ. The DRZ has very excellent suspension, and it is very off-road oriented. What are most people who are a big fan of the DRZ wanting in this update? And we've heard it over and over again. A 6-speed gearbox. So, 5-speed with a 6-gear either overdrive or just 6 gears to rev it out. Electronic fuel injection, no more carburation. We're in 2024 as of today's date. We're not in the year 2000 when you first created the DRZ. Now, don't get me wrong, the DRZ 400 is a freaking legend. It is probably up there with the DR650. I would say if not tied or right under it, like it's not too far off. I would say that's another GOAT for sure. It hasn't been drawing a lot of people's attention, and people haven't been buying it as much as they've been buying probably the KLX and the Honda CRF 300L. And if they update their dash even, and they make it like a digital dash similar to, the Hondas, and they make it better, and I'm talking, it has a gear shift indicator, it has a speedometer, tachometer, it has fuel consumption. I mean, everything on that panel of the 300L, if they put that on, that might sell people over. Plus you have good suspension. It's back to being off-road oriented. Dual sporting is only growing in more popularity. That's the one thing with any bike out there, right? You could ride a street bike, you could ride a cruiser, you could ride a touring bike, you could ride a damn scooter. But the one thing that all those have in common is that they all can be ridden in the street. You cannot take those out off-road because of the tires and the suspension that will not allow you for that, and or the ground clearance as well. Anyway, that's pretty much all I really have for you guys today. If you like this comment, as always, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and let me know, guys, what kind of videos that you want in the future. And also let me know if any of you own a KLX. Like I said earlier, let me know if I should get the bike, if I shouldn't, should I wait on the DRZ, who knows what. Drop it down in the comments below. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.